Hey guys, welcome to Funky's World. This is the review of Dark Side of the Ring, Doink the Clown. Now, Doink the Clown was Matt Osborne. His father was Tough Tony Bourne, who worked with Roddy Piper in Portland wrestling. Matt went on to work in World Class Championship Wrestling as Maniac Matt Bourne. After the collapse of, I'm just giving you a brief overview, then I'll talk about the show. After the collapse of World Class, he was brought into WCW as Big Josh, a lumberjack, because he was from Portland. And, sorry, just itches so bad. Just showing you. And it was funny because my dad and I are sitting there watching WCW Saturday night. And we're looking at this guy, and he's familiar for sure. And they put handcuffs on him. He was a baby face, but they put handcuffs on him because he was trying to help another baby face or something and trying to get him out of the ring. And he broke them. And I said to my father, wait a minute, that's Matt Bourne. And my father said, yeah, he said, sure is, he's one of the only guys that could do what he just did, breaking the cuffs, even gimmicked, it would take force. And, so we were stunned, because we were like, are you serious? Why would you do that to Maniac Matt Bourne? Because we knew what he was capable of in the ring. He was an amazing wrestler. He was tough, raw boned, as they call it, and just solid scientifically, So the gimmick didn't last long. It turns out he got fired, but actually he didn't get fired from that gimmick. He got a call from Vince McMahon. I guess he had worked in the World Wrestling Federation for a short time early on, just as Matt Bourne. And anyway, they called him and they said, we have this gimmick for you, Doink the Clown. And he's like, all right, I'll make it work, Hold that thought, I have to change your battery. Welcome back to Funky's World. I had to change your battery. So anyway, he became Doink the Clown. And it became quickly known amongst the wrestling community that he was Doink. That's who Doink was, that it was Matt Bourne. It later became Steve Kern and some jobber named Ray Apollo. So, now Steve Kern's a great wrestler, and next to Matt was probably the next guy that could really make it work. Make Doink tough, while also ridiculous, if that makes sense. I know nothing about Ray Apollo. I think his biggest role was Doink the Clown, but and I remember, well, first of all, Mick Foley said, and nobody knew the difference. Well, that's not entirely true. Because around that time was the time that the internet was starting to take hold in wrestling, and we also knew enough, most of us, to know who was who. You know what I mean? And we would play games like figure out who it is under the mask, or you know. And I was particularly good at it. And I distinctly remember probably about 87, 88, Doom had come out. And they were wearing masks. Everybody figured out who they were, and they just got rid of the masks. But it wasn't really internet then. But none of us were stupid. If you've been watching wrestling for a long time, and you hear their voices, you know who they are. And I said to my father, I said, I know who they are. Once I heard them talk in a promo, I said to my father, I know who they are. He said, who are they? I said, it's Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. And his brother happened to call. His brother was down in Florida visiting his in-laws at the time with the kids. And Dad told him, and he said, you know what? I think she's right. Because we were all wrestling fans. And my uncle said, I think she's right. Sure enough, they took off the mask, and that's who it was. Well, I think I was one of the first ones that figured out that Doink the Clown was Matt Bourne by the voice. And it became a running joke among wrestling fans. Now, we didn't know much about Rip Hollow. He was just the third guy. No offense to him. He just was the third guy. Third Doink, so to speak. It became a running joke among fans. This is something Mick Foley probably didn't know and probably doesn't know. Okay, are we getting Matt Bourne or are we getting Steve Kern? Because we knew. He didn't think we knew, because he said, I don't think anybody knew the difference. Well, yeah, they did. Because we were smarter than you think. Even in the early 90s, we knew. That's so funny. And you could tell because this part of his costume was open. Matt Bourne had a hairy chest. Steve Kern did not. Matt Bourne was hairier than Steve. So you could tell, and they weren't built exactly the same. And by then, we had access to the wrestling newsletters. That's what it was. It wasn't the internet. It was the newsletters. So we knew. And it became a running joke to those of us who they would call smart marks. Is it Kern? Is it Bourne? And you'd have to watch for a bit the style and watch the body and to figure out who it was. Just a little thing for you that Mick Foley didn't know. So we did know the difference, Mick. All due respect, I love you, but we did know the difference. Anyway, back to Matt. Matt was an addict, a heavy smoker. He was addicted to several things: alcohol, cocaine, painkillers, and tobacco, nicotine. So he one time he beat his wife senseless, and when he came down and he wasn't high or drunk, he went to the hospital and he said, "Oh my God, did I do that to you?" Like, he knew later, but he didn't know at the time what he was doing. So she stayed with him, which I sort of understand. Given that he didn't know, he died of an overdose. His girlfriend at the time, he was helping her take care of her ill mother, who was in hospice, who was on a lot of pain medicine and stuff. Not the best place for an addict, but my personal opinion, okay, his daughter believes that she put the liquid morphine in a drink or something. No, I don't think so. I think two things were going on. By something that came out of her own mouth. She said, when she found that there was some medication missing, she said pills, they said liquid, I don't know. Out of a bottle, she said, she didn't say you're going to get in trouble. She said, we're going to get in trouble. So I personally think she was, and she, what's the word? Not hinted, but insinuated that she had a problem also. Some of the things she said insinuated that, in my opinion. And I think they were both loaded that night. I think that he ended up out on the front lawn. The people brought him back in, as she said. I think she was loaded still at 6 o'clock when she called her friend, or 6:30, whenever it was, and her friend told her to call 911. Well, it is stated in the police report she didn't call 911 until 9 a.m., that she went back to bed. She claims that this isn't true. Generally, the police are not going to get the time that they arrived wrong by 2.5 hours. There may be a 5-10 minute difference based on, your watch or your patrol car clock, but it's not going to be 2.5 hours. It's just not. So I think she went back to bed. She was high. Got back up at 9 o'clock, realized something was more seriously wrong than she thought, and called 911 at that time. If she was not high at 6:30 and went back to bed, that is a crime, and it's called depraved indifference homicide. Because you did nothing when you knew a person was dying, that's called depraved indifference. And it is actually a crime in the United States of America. It is a form of homicide. So, I don't know which it is, because if she were straight, I would have thought she would have called 911 right away, which she claims she did. But like I said, police are not going to have it off by 2.5 hours, and they showed the actual document. So my opinion is she was stoned as well. And it would have been interesting if those neighbors had talked about it. But she insinuated in other things that she said, she was talking about how crazy he was, how crazy she was. She was actually involved in the wrestling business when he met her. As a manager, Nurse Ratchet, she would hit people with her steel bedpan. So her guys could win and stuff. She just insinuated that she did the same crap that he did. So And the way she said, we're going to get in trouble. I would think most straight people would say, you're going to get in trouble. Because they're not going to go down with it. They're not going to go down. How do I put this? They're not going to be willing to go down with you, or they're not going to think they're going to go down with you because they're going to tell. If they're straight, they've got nothing to hide. Ooh. I just swallowed a big air bubble. Anyway. My opinion. Unless she was that naive. So while I don't believe she directly murdered him, which is what his daughter believes, I believe that it comes down to, even if she were stoned, depraved indifference, as far as I'm concerned. But again, it's my opinion, and doesn't have to be anyone else's. Based on the evidence that I heard, it's depraved indifference. Please watch the show and let me know what you think. That Bourne had a promising career. Well, he had a great career with a terrible ending. And unfortunately, like a lot of wrestlers, it ended with drugs. Excuse me. Thank you so much. I'm going to take you for a walk with me. So, and I think I know where we're going. So, I will see you for that in a moment. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll see you soon. Bye, guys. Please remember to subscribe. We're trying to get up to 100 subscribers here, 500 over on Kid Missing. Bye, guys.